My eye itches.
All right, I'll let you.
I'm battling allergies today.
This is Tanner's flu game. Right?
Yeah, exactly.
All right, well, everybody, welcome back to the Wedgies podcast. We are excited today to have a awesome guest with us. One who is
One I've never met before.
One you've never met before.
He's
It's
new.
interesting. This is a new friend to me, but an old friend to Tanner. Jarren Hunsaker. How you doing, man?
Doing so good. I'm happy to be here. The Wedgies podcast. I don't know if I realized it was the Wedgies podcast.
Yeah, big deal today. So happy you could carve the time out
Yeah,
to
It's
make
so
this
good.
work.
I'll be honest. We need to get the podcast a little bigger because if you look up Wedgies podcast on like YouTube and stuff to try and find our videos, the SEO has not quite found out what we are. And there's a lot of like legitimate wedgie focused podcasts.
I need a good logo for this podcast. That's what I want
Oh,
to see. Like a
yes.
really good wedgie logo podcast.
There we go. Well, that'll be your first task. We'll get you on that.
Okay, yeah, send it on over. I'll use all my graphic design skills.
Yeah.
Awesome,
Well,
man.
speaking of wedgies, though, Jarren and I met in high school. The birthplace of wedgies, maybe
Wedgies.
back in the day. I don't know the history of wedgies, but
We were flipping wedgies with Reevely back in the day. Shout out Reevely. Oh man, those were some good days.
those were some interesting times. And in addition to golf, though, you and I played tennis together too.
Yes.
Which
I often forget that I play tennis. Played tennis.
Okay, so tell me this, because this is the situation that I'm in. Like, I never get to play tennis anymore.
Yeah. No, pickleball has taken over the world.
Pickleball rules, which is great,
Which I
because
love.
my biggest gripe with tennis is like you gotta play somebody close to your skill level or it's not fun. Like if you play somebody that doesn't play, it's aggravating, right?
Yeah.
Pickleball, like, luckily breaks that barrier down a little bit. That barrier to entry is a lot lower, and so you can play with like more people. But that's why I never play tennis, because I don't have anybody to play with anymore.
I'm the same. I've actually since Wimbledon, like last week, I have like the itch to go play tennis now, but I have no one to play with out here. I'm sure there's like clubs and stuff that I could go play, but I'm like, I'll just stick to golf for now.
It's
totally.
And that's all good. I will say this though too. Like, so obviously Jarren was a year older than me in school. So my first year playing golf, you were there, and very good golfer, might I shout out.
Thank you.
Can't back it up. I've seen him play.
Dane's played with you guys. You guys will talk about your story. Very good golfer.
Yep.
And then when I played tennis, my first doubles partner. You're the first person I played with.
Shout out. Yeah, dude.
Out at
Doubles is
Uinta,
the best
baby.
in tennis.
Yeah.
Was that at Uinta on the cracked
I was at
courts?
Uinta, and I was, yes, with the cracked courts, and I had been playing tennis seriously, I think, at that time for like maybe 2 months. Like I was new.
That was probably my first year playing.
Oh, really? Was that
because
year?
I didn't play my freshman year.
Oh, okay. Well, Jarren was better than me, and was very patient with me as I was like learning the game. So, shout out to you for that.
We were both new. We were both new. Literally, all my friends were on the team, so I joined the team. If you could fog a mirror, and hold a racket, you could.
At that time, yeah. But absolute blast. I loved all the guys out there. Super, super fun.
Give us some credit. By the end of our time there, we were a force to reckon with.
Yeah, we got good.
There you go.
Yeah.
Well, that's awesome, man. Well, the reason we wanted to have Jarren on today was obviously I met Jarren a few months ago out during Masters Week in Augusta, which was an absolute blast. Got the chance to play some golf and, had the unique opportunity where you're saying, yeah, I'm from Utah. And then not only were you from Utah, but, knew Tanner as well as you did was kind of an awesome coincidence. But also with some shared passion that I know you and I have, which is the golf photography. And being able to create in the world of golf. And so maybe we can start there a little bit, Jarren, talking and just kind of walk us through your story of, going from the peaks of your life, which were you into doubles tennis, sounds
of course.
like.
Yeah.
To the next step being kind of leading to where your career is at this point.
Yeah, so right after Uinta's doubles tennis, I think I had to do some photography homework. No, high school is really where I got started, like with a love for creating anything. I was in like I took photography courses, and we had a TV class that was like all about like either making commercials or running a TV show, whether it's the news or we had a um, this is another throwback. We had a sports broadcast,
That's
a
right.
sports show. What was it called? I don't remember, but you were up on. You were an analyst.
Dude, that was
You were a
so
host.
much fun. And then you just ran the back room like no one's business, dude, because I did it my first year with you, and then you graduated, and then I did it the second year, and it did not run as smooth when you weren't there, dude. I'm telling you what.
Well, that's nice of you to say on the podcast, but it's I
No,
don't
I'm
think.
serious.
Yeah, no, that was fun. Like, so I did a lot of producer director stuff for like TV broadcasting in high school. So really not that hard, but it was fun and I loved it. And then after college, or well, during college, I was like, I need to get a real job. I kind of put all of that in the back of my mind. This is the days of like Devin Supertramp was like
Oh yeah.
high, like 2013, right? He was like the coolest person ever.
Another Utah legend.
Yeah, a lot of Utah legends coming here.
Yep.
And then, yeah, just in school, I was like, got to get a real job. Want to go? I, my minor was in marketing because I wanted to do something creative. Little did I know that marketing is like so widespread, and I learned everything not creative in school. And then I finished, and I got a job at Utah State in the Entrepreneurship Center, which probably was I mean, that for sure was a huge reason why I got back into it, because a guy I worked with also loved video specifically, and kind of that Devin Supertramp, like make just creativity, marketing, and making stuff. And so my wife donated plasma for like a year. She didn't tell me this is why, but at Christmas she surprised me with a camera because
Oh,
I kept
wow.
telling her like, this is really what I want to do. Like I want to be a photographer. And so this was 2019, 2020, in between there. And I was seeing all of these golf creators, and I was like, this is what I would love to do. So surprised me with the camera, gave her blood for it, and from that moment, I just took the camera anywhere and did anything I could with it. When I would golf, I would take my camera with me, like, and just started learning. You know, YouTube all night, photo shoot all day, and rinse and repeat, all while working and going to school at the same time. So I was just like trying to get my hands in this field, and I loved it.
So, question for you there. As you were kind of going through that process, got the camera, the blood camera. You ever heard of blood
Yeah,
camera?
blood
It's
camera.
the blood camera.
It wasn't a red, but it was bloody.
Exactly. At what point did you start to feel like, hey, I've got my own style, or I'm starting to feel like I'm getting good at this? Like, what point did you kind of reach, or are you still in that process? I mean, I've seen your stuff. I know you've definitely got a unique style, unique look, and all that kind of stuff. When in the process did that kind of come to be for you?
I appreciate you saying that. I don't know if I could answer what my style is, to be honest. It's something that I feel like I'm chasing still to this day of, what I like, what I don't like, what looks good. And I was actually just going through a lot of my old stuff, sliding through Google Photos today. And I'm looking back at some of this old stuff, and I'm like, this was sick. Where is this now? Sometimes
That's the opposite of what I thought you were going to say.
Sometimes there's like this freshness, like you see everything new, you have no critiques, and you're just out there having a good time with the camera. And sometimes that lends to the best results. I went to Arizona like it was before COVID in 2020, so it must have been February during the waste management. And I just went for fun and played golf with some friends there and stuff. And looking back at those photos, I'm like, dang, these are good. Like, but that was me brand new to it. And then I feel like there's always this curve of like, you're feeling good about yourself, and then something just like what's the word? Just um, makes you realize you have so much more to grow.
Mm.
Humbles you, absolutely humbles you, you know. And then you're like, okay, back here, ground zero. What can I learn from this? And then you're feeling good, and then something just humbles you. And I feel like that's been my learning curve, you know, since the beginning is like feeling good, feeling good, feeling good, humble, you know,
Mm.
and then, but you know, it's like two steps forward, one step back type of thing. So to answer your question, I'm still chasing what I think my style is. But more than anything, I just hope that what photos I make is just like makes people realize that golf is a beautiful game.
Totally. Totally. That's super cool that you answer that, and especially the way that you kind of say, like, that freshness and that stuff that you look at. Because I do agree with you. There's points in the creative process, especially in photography, where you start to see things really from a fresh lens or from a unique lens. But then also you have kind of, at least in my perspective, in my experience, I had to let my technical abilities catch up to kind of what I wanted to create. One of the funny stories that you'll appreciate this is when we first started Wedge and we were first trying to show companies what we could do for them. We wanted to create a lot of content on our Instagram page. We always wanted to be creating and posting stuff. Well, what was funny is I was shooting a bunch of photography out, and people kept coming like, "Man, you have this really great like muted look, like really muted kind of colors."
Yeah.
And they're like, "What are you doing to get that look?" And I'm like, "It's just kind of how it comes out of the camera that way."
Yeah.
And I found out like 2 months into that, I was shooting my photography in log. And so it was
That's
coming
so
out with
good.
this like muted thing, and I was adding color back into it, and I was like, so, but it still, obviously looks really, really muted, but that was like my first style, if you will, was because I
Yeah.
didn't know how to use my camera correctly.
Dude, but if it's working and people like it, like there's no wrong way to do anything. That's what I
Uh-huh.
love about it. So just like you can take it anywhere. That's a good story though.
Yeah, no, it was a bit wild, and so that was kind of my first dip in the toe into the water with the photography thing. But so you kind of get this camera, picking up the story. You get this camera, you're starting to shoot, trying to get your look. Where was the transition between, hey, this is something I like doing, and this is going to start becoming a job or a career for me?
Yeah, yeah. So, um, 2022, my wife and I both finished our MBAs. We were doing MBAs at Utah State together.
Brag.
Yeah, and and we found out that we were going to move to Philadelphia, and I was planning on just coming out here, like I'm going to chase this dream of entrepreneurship, and I'm just going to start finding clients for myself, you know. And I'm grateful that didn't happen because I was woefully unprepared. But what I did find, I found a listing for a job as like a social media manager for a course out here called Philly Cricket. You know, for any golf sickos out there, they'll realize that's a top 100 golf club in the
Wow.
U.S. Like it's so good. They just hosted the U.S. four ball this last year, just a few months ago, and so um, I applied. Granted, this is like February of 22, and I'm still in school. Like I don't graduate for another 4 or 5 months, but I apply and I'm like, hey, I'm coming out here in the summer. This job is like perfect for what I want to do. Send them over a bunch of my stuff of just, you know, different places that I had shot, golf course, whatever. And they were really looking for someone that could just tell the story of like of what it's like to be a member at the club. You know, I'm like, this is perfect. This is like my dream job. So I send it out to them and they get back to me. They're like, after a few interviews, they're like, can you start in middle of March? And I'm like, well, I don't graduate for like another month and a half, but yeah, let's do it. So then I go to all my professors and I was like, hey, I'm leaving month and a half early. Can I do everything online? Some of them were like, I'm like, this is the whole point of going to school is to get a job and this is it. So that works out. I end up going to Philly Cricket and do social media management there for like, I ended up being there for 6 months, but it was every day, camera in hand, creating. Not always on the golf course. Sometimes I'm going to the pickleball sipping socials, you know, and trying to make a video out of that, or whatever dinner party they've got going on. So it wasn't always like this is like the sickest moment. I'm always at a golf course. But I mean, 3 or 4 days out of the week, I would find myself at the golf course just taking photos, figuring out
Wow.
what angles I like, what kind of photos I like. And so that was a huge, huge piece in just like me being able to get the experience I need to learn, and to just repetition is the biggest key there. So that was the moment that I was like, okay, this could be a real thing. And then just because of friends that I had made and within Golfers Journal in that community, they reached out and they had a similar position for social media management open, and they said they're looking for someone, and I was like, well, I want to be that someone, and so I took that and I learned just a ton. Um, and I mean, that's like true professionalism. They do it to what I believe is like the highest degree,
Definitely.
between images and storytelling in the golf world. Like, I'm pretty biased, but there's not much comparison, you know? And so just the ability to be able to go out and work with them, I was like, this is like just flooding with knowledge. And so that was a cool moment. Yeah. And then recently just jumped freelance to now do this all take this all on my own. And I think that was when we went and played, Dane. That was like the first week of freelance that I had.
You were right on the verge of kind of taking that leap and getting over there. And I mean, yeah, talking to you about that kind of stuff, it's obviously there's some shared experience between us and you with having started kind of our own business and stuff there within the golf space. And so yeah, I kind of wanted to ask a little bit about the Golfers Journal portion. You mentioned there at the highest level that they're doing a lot of success there. What, if you can kind of take us behind the scenes, what was kind of the crucial identifier that you think caused them to be able to do that? Was it the opportunity the way they told the stories? Was it the imagery? Was the mixture of the two? And then what kind of constitutes a great story within golf versus what you might be seeing, compared to
Yeah.
Golf Channel or
Yeah.
all those different locations that you're seeing these stories every day?
Yeah, I think they do a great job of exactly what you said. The images, the marriage of the images to the words, is beautiful, right? So that itself is telling a great story, but they're not always chasing the clickbaity stuff. It's a slow read. It's something that you want to like sit there and digest a little bit, and especially in a world of clickbait, like fast, fast interactions. How can I get this to the most amount of people? Engagement. You know, Golfers Journal kind of flows the other way to where it's like, how can we make people like sit down, cup of coffee, chill on their Sunday morning, and just read a piece from the Golfers Journal. And there's so many pieces in there too are that will make you laugh compared to like that will make you almost want to cry. And
Wow.
all of it has an element of golf, yet none of it is about golf. It's all about our experience as people, you know. And just golf plays a huge role, I think, in how we experience life.
That's
So
funny you
yeah,
say that, because like just real quick, when you were talking about just a little bit earlier, when you were talking about your experience with photography and creating and getting a camera and just taking it out and figuring it out, and you were talking about like 2 steps forward, 1 step back, you kind of ride in a high, think you know what you're doing, then you have a humbling experience, and then you kind of get back up there again and you have a humbling experience. As you were talking about that, in my head, I mean, I've got like definitely creatively, I felt that way, especially like with music.
yeah,
Um, Sometimes I feel like I'm like I got this stuff figured out, and then I'll sit down another day and there's like nothing here at all, and it's all garbage, and I'm like, I've been doing this for years. Why does this sound like the first thing I made again? You know what I mean? But where my mind went when you were talking about that was golf,
mm.
and I was like, that's kind of how I feel like my relationship with golf is, and I don't know if it'll ever change. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
it's one of those things that I think, like creativity, it's one of those things you can get good at it, but you'll never master it. And I've just kind of, when you were talking about that, thinking about just my experience so far this summer with golf, we've talked about this on the pod before, but like the first time in years that I tried to make like an honest effort at working at my game and getting a little bit better and setting the time aside to play, because I've been frustrated in the past with not having enough of that. And once you kind of like set your sights on that and you have some elevated goals, then it gets harder to get there. You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
it's not as leisurely sometimes. Um, but it was just funny to me as you were talking about your relationship with the creativity and with photography specifically. All of the same things that you were saying, I was relating to my golf game at the moment, where it's like I'll be riding a high and I'm like, oh yeah, I can hit every fairway now, and then a week later you might not. You know what I mean? It's like, what is different? What is changing? But you're continually progressing and learning. And getting better incrementally.
Seems like golf has too many of those humbling experiences. At least
quite a few.
In my instance.
Yeah, there's like barriers in golf. Like, you know, trying to break 80 for the first time, it's so hard. And then you do it. And then you're like, do it again. And it just gets easier.
Maintain it.
And then you're like, okay, now I got to shoot par. You know, but then it takes you years to, there's just like these layers of barriers that are difficult to break through, but once you do, it's like eye-opening, and then you realize, oh, I can do it, you know. And then but golf is the ultimate parallel to life, or to anything really.
Like you're talking about, you're like, it's a golfer's journal, right? You sit down, you read a story, sometimes you laugh, sometimes you cry, and they're golf related, but it's not about golf. It's about people, it's about experiences, it's about life. That's what golf is. Like you can draw so many parallels, and I just found that interesting. And as you brought that up, I was like, I just did that like 5 minutes ago.
Totally. So Jarren, you mentioned there that you learned a lot from the golfer's journal experience. I mean, what, in kind of as we talk about that insight there with, hey, golf is very similar to life and all that stuff. How do you portray that in your photography?
Portray
kind of again, just what your relationship is to golf. How do you get that to come through in what you're trying to shoot? You've had these awesome experiences, not only shooting some client work or some golfer's journal work, but professional tournaments. How do you get the emotion of that experience and of golf through in a single image?
Yeah, that's a good question too. I think the biggest thing I think about is, what would little Jarren think if he was at this tournament? You know, like getting to go shoot a few PGA Tour events, or I got to go to the U.S. Open at Pinehurst. You know, shooting different stuff, and I just think, man, what would like little Jarren like notice? What would he think is the sickest thing ever? And how can I capture that in a photo? Right? Seeing Rory walk like 3 feet in front of you, I'm like, how can I get this in a photo? You know, or like seeing Tiger from the 12th layer of gallery that there always is around him. How can I get a photo of him that's cool, but also represents like how big the crowd is, you know? So I try to keep that perspective of like, what is the viewer going to, how are we going to like bring them into this photo? And I love the photos that are very clean and very like, you know, getting the perfect backswing or the perfect follow through, and it's right up tight. But those don't usually tell me, like, I can get that on TV, right? And that's what I do get on TV. What I love is getting wide, or even, just shooting through layers of things that you feel like, okay, like, that's a person there, and I'm standing by this person in the gallery, and I'm seeing Tiger hit a perfect shot at Pinehurst at the U.S. Open in 2024. You know, like, I
think one of the perfect examples of that was Marsh. Recently, Jeff Marsh recently posted that photo of Jordan Spieth.
Yeah.
Where it's like somebody quoted and they were like, "This is the Jordan Spieth experience in a photo." And if you haven't seen the photo, it's shot perfectly through the trees. You know, you can barely see Jordan Spieth kind of in the background, but when you see Jordan, he's like identifying how he's going to get out of this situation.
Yeah, he's like, I've got a window that's like
exactly.
I think I can get it in.
And if if anybody's followed Jordan Spieth for more than 5 minutes, you've known like you're gonna have 6 or 7 of these type of things in a round. But that's what made that photo so incredible. Was it was not just like, oh, great composition, great whatever, but it's like the story of how Jordan plays around was told through this photo that he took.
Yeah.
And that's where I think what you're kind of getting at there, where it's not just how do I get the prettiest looking aspect, but it's how do I get to tell the story of what I'm experiencing through this moment that I get to capture.
Yeah, and then I mean, shout out to Jeff for getting that.
Oh man!
And then a quick callback to your understanding the technical. He had to throw it out in manual focus, right? So trying to get that shot, I mean, he had like maybe 5 seconds to get that shot. Whips it around, throws it into manual, adjusts, boom, 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 and then he gets it, right? And that's just someone who knows their camera so well that it's like truly second nature for them to do that, and they're able to like creatively tell the story in like a moment's notice, because Jordan's not staying down there long, right?
No.
Had those hands up and then he's out of there. So
well, and that's what's so unique about capturing those events is you're not able to turn to Jordan Spieth or Rory McIlroy or Tiger Woods, like, oh, I'm sorry, could you hold that real quick?
Oh, it's live versus
yeah,
like a product.
Let me
shoot.
grab that photo
over a little bit.
Sorry, can I change lenses? I want to go. I want to go wide.
Real quick, could you imagine how they would feel? I remember when we were doing World Long Drive.
Correct.
I think it was our first or second event.
Oh, I know exactly where this is going.
And nobody's fault whatsoever. Here's the thing. You also can't please everybody, right? Just especially with art, like right out the gate, it's subjective, right? You're not going to get everybody.
Yeah.
And it was either our first or second event, dude. And we were out there just like busting it, right? Because like also we didn't know. We were trying to show them that we had this taken care of, right? Like we're trying to make sure that when they saw us like run, like, doing the event, that they're like, all right, like we can trust these guys. They're good partners, right?
Professional.
And so we're just like, dude, we're just like going for it, right? Plus new to it, right? And I'm not gonna say who or what or whatever.
I'm getting publicly outed on this pod. It was
not your fault though. Like, this is what I'm trying to illustrate. It was not Dane's fault. Dane was trying to do his job. I don't think you were wrong at all. Still to this day, Dane was trying to do his job. He's out there getting photos, doing his thing. Getting in there, and like I said, we're still kind of new, right?
Yeah.
Dane's well behind the player that was hitting, wasn't in their line of sight, anything. But this player's coach had thought that Dane's shadow was creeping into his vision,
into his line of vision. And again, it's again, we understand it's a technical sport.
Like
don't blame the player of that at all. But it's like,
golf is very, even on long jump. Like we all know, like golf, like in NBA, you're cheering the whole time, but like you could be talking, and then as soon as the player's getting ready to hit a shot, you hush. They hit their focus, hit their shot, and you go back, right? So not at all trying to be disruptive in any way. In fact, trying to get really good shots of these people that they can use to market themselves and also the league, right? It's all good stuff. Also trying to understand what performance is and what these guys are going after. But so one guy got it.
Basically, the lesson is don't bring a 13 mil to a tournament when you're trying to get close-up shots.
So we learned, but I guess the shadow had thought that the shadow had crept. He's like, oh, you get it. Anyway, and so we're like, oh, sorry. But, you live and you learn. But that just illustrates live events, live sports versus like a product shoot or just a photo shoot, right, where you can stage everything. Yeah. Question I have for you, though, is I want to kind of take it back to the beginning. I'll say this real quick. Like, you're an awesome dude. I grew up with you, right? So I know that. Played sports with you and stuff like that. You're also a really intelligent guy. You got a lot of skills. You did a lot of things. Utah State student body president. We'll throw that out there too. Like you lot of things. You have the capacity to do a lot of things. Why golf? Like maybe walk us back to the beginning and where your interaction with the sport started, or where your love of the sport came. Obviously, great player, and how did you get to that point? You've been playing since you were young.
Yeah,
you had that relationship with the game, and now you're doing it professionally with all of these things on the table for you to pursue. Why golf?
Yeah, that's thank you for the kind words. I don't know if they're deserved, but I appreciate it.
They're deserved.
I mean, golf was like my first love. Like in high school, my identity was golf, right? And that's something that I've had to like figure out. Is like I'm more than just a golfer. and
Mhm.
but that's always been the first love. And I cycled through, do I want to be a pro? I love to play golf. I didn't know squat about the world of golf that you and I are in now, right? Like, you ask me what some of these top courses are, I have no clue. I don't care, right? But you ask me about the PGA Tour and whose swing I love the most, I'm like, Jason Day was my guy.
Mm,
And so I loved golf and I loved playing golf. And so in college, before I did the student body president thing, I worked for the AJGA and running their tournaments for like 3.5, 4 months or something all around the country. Um, and then I worked at Wasatch and Soldier Hollow like every summer in college. And for a while, I was like, I think I want to be a pro. Uh, then I realized how much they work and how little they get paid. And I'm like,
Yeah,
I don't want to
totally.
be a pro, right?
it's
Like,
rough.
that is
Yep.
a
Yeah.
grind of a life. And then, what? Maybe I don't want to do anything golf because if I play or if I work in golf, I don't play golf, and then I end up just like not enjoying golf anymore, right? So I went through a bunch of roller coasters of like, I want to be in golf, I want to be out of golf, I want to be in golf, out of golf, all while going to school, then having the crazy idea to run for student body president, and then for some reason winning. That was the weirdest thing, and that's a whole nother story. But that was a really cool moment in that I had the opportunity to be a board of trustee as student body president of Utah State University, right? So I'm in the room with like the president of the university and like a dozen other individuals who have some sort of connection to Utah State. Like, I'm sitting next to the owner of Maverick, and I'm like,
Nice.
Mhm.
what am I doing? The more I interact with them, the more I realize they're just regular people. Like, they are just regular people who have a drive to succeed. And I realized in that moment, I can go and do whatever I want. Now, I saw how much in their life they give up in other areas, that I was like, I don't want to chase the corporate ladder. I don't want to, all of these things that, had I gone back, would I have done everything the same? I don't know. But I'm grateful for all those experiences, because at the end of the day, I realize there is so much work to do in whatever you want to do. So for me, the most important thing was finding something that I just love to do. And golf was always still like I still loved playing golf, and I loved creating, whether it was video or photo. And so yeah, man, I got fixated on this idea of I can get a camera and make it a job. And once and shout out to my wife for one, donating plasma to get the camera, but she's always been
Incredible.
in full support of me chasing these wild dreams of making this a career. And I don't know if I would have made the jump if it wasn't for her support. um, but like that is a huge reason, is it's just something I love to do. And lastly, the I find myself going to golf courses now, not caring to play, but more excited to shoot. And it's a way that I can actually interact with the golf course, um, that's not playing, right? So when I go to these courses, like, I'm frothing over the undulations and the way that the mounding of the bunkers and the green and how everything rolls together. And I'm like, how can I capture that? Because like, these are sick parts of the course. And so that's kind of been the evolvement of why I wanted to do this is like, once I realized I wasn't making it to the PGA Tour, and I found another way that I can like love to interact with golf. I'm just like, I'm full in, uh, and it's been awesome. I love it.
That's incredible. And I think that's really, as I was thinking through, hey, why I want to make sure I reached out to you and kind of got you on this podcast, why Tanner and I want to talk to you so much, was because I think it's a shared experience. It's a shared love. It was really cool to have somebody else sitting in a golf cart with me at Champions Retreat who's also looking around, trying to find photos, trying to do stuff. And
Yeah.
it's actually one of the few rounds I've got photos of myself at. It's been a while since I've actually had photos of me from around,
Yeah.
which I know you probably share in that struggle. But I think it's the same kind of thing that you were saying, where it's just there's a really awesome opportunity to be able to, golf is one of those few sports where not only does it connect you with nature, but also with people and with yourself and with emotions that you get to have. And I think getting able to capture the game is really unique, and it's kind of why we fell in love with it, even if our day to day is more on the corporate brand side of things. But it allows us to stay it allows us to stay tied to something that we truly do love and we truly do want to get to do as much as we can. Um, but I think we're getting a little long on time here. I think kind of the last thing that I wanted to ask you about, and again, we could go on for like 2 hours in this conversation, and we'll have to have a
This has been
Jarren
easy.
part two.
Follow-up.
But what's next for you? What are the goals kind of going forward, and how do you hope to see your career progress?
Oh, that's a great question. You're catching me in the middle of me making all these decisions of what I want to do next. I think the biggest thing is I want to be, and I don't know if this sounds selfish. It makes me feel a little selfish, but I want to be someone who is sought after in the golf world creatively.
Mm.
That if, whether it's a brand or an event or editorial or whatever it might be, I want to get to the point where, these people might say, hey, Jarren would be able to capture this really well. Or I would love to as well be able to identify stories and things that I want to capture myself and go make myself. I keep like a notes of like adventures or different things that I want to go and do, and how can I, tell the story of a person or a place, or how can I go and have an experience myself and translate that through either photo or video.
So interestingly, you've had the opportunity to rub shoulders with guys in my perspective who I view in that realm. The Jeff Marshes, the Christian Hafers, like those guys who have reached that, again, in my perspective, that status.
Yeah.
What is kind of that you're looking to build that maybe you've been able to wean off of those guys and just try and kind of use in your own career?
Dude, they are just so good. They're so good at so many things, but they're so good at being themselves. And that's like one thing that I feel like I'm trying to come into right now is Jeff knows what he is so good at and what's, makes him stand out. Christian knows what he is so good at, and he's not afraid to let anyone know what he's good at. Like that confidence of being able to go and create, and stellar dudes that I really look up to, the both of them. And seeing that they create it in their way, and they're not closed to critique, but they know what their strong suits are, and they're not going to apologize for it, right? Like, meaning that they're going to double down on what they're good at, and it shows in their work that it's so good and aspirational for so many people, right? So that's one thing that I'm trying to figure out, kind of going back to, a question that you had earlier, is what's my style? That's what I want to be able to answer, is what is my voice? What is different about me compared to about any of them? And so that's kind of what I'm seeking for, and what I've learned from them.
I love it. Well, I think that's what we're all excited to kind of keep following and find out is, keep seeing as Jarren progresses and builds out that style. And then, one of these days, I'm sure I'll be looking and say, hey, I'll shoot that for you. And they say, oh, no, we got it. Jarren's
He's got to take it.
Jarren's got it taken care of. And I'll say,
just stay in Philly. Don't move out here anytime soon.
Yeah, exactly. Stay off our turf.
Hey, no plans coming back yet, but man, I love this. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Well, when you
love
are back,
Wedgies podcast.
Totally. When you are back, let's play some golf. Let's hit the course, and let's
let's play some tennis, dude. Like, come over here. Let's run it back, dude. Like,
yes, we'll go bring back a little Wasatch High School tennis throwback. We'll get the rest of the crew out there.
That would be, dude. You would be insane is doing that and then doing a sports broadcasting show to recap what just happened. That would be the ultimate.
Oh
That's
my
so cool though,
gosh,
dude, that you kind of found that passion through that class. I think a lot of us found a lot of passions through that class. So like shout out to the school for putting that on. Dude, we
Mr.
had the
Moss.
craziest Mr. Moss for like putting up with us and like all the gear that we had and stuff. Like they took it very seriously there, and we were the benefactors of that. And so dude, that's so funny. I haven't thought about that in a while. I gotta go watch some clips from YouTube. They're still up there.
We'll try and find them and post them for you.
No, we're not gonna post them. We're not gonna post them. But that was fun, man. It was fun catching up with you too. And you know, I know you come out here from time to time. So if you ever do got a little bit of time, let's play. And if we ever find ourselves out in your neck of the woods, I'd love to have you show us around what's over there because I've never been out there. So
dude, some great golf out here.
Let's do it.
Anytime. Thanks for having me. Appreciate you guys.
Okay, man. We'll check back in with you.